My point is, how am I going to connect with you? And if we do that, you're building brand awareness and brand sentiment. And you know what? You're opening the door for sales to go in and have a really strong conversation. We're kind of missing that. Like all of that's getting scrapped so that, we can focus on cost per lead and things like that. And that's important. But I'm telling you, you think about the brand, the story that you're telling, and just invest in that a little bit. And then couple it with a smart demand generation play, you're going to see magic. You're going to see the results.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, I did it. I did the thing. This is scary. This is happening. I'm excited. I hit the button, and guess what? The train is leaving the station. The roller coaster is going kick up the hill. But I'm ready. I'm hydrated. And if you're listening to this, grab your water, grab your coffee, grab your energy drink, and the espresso, all of which I've had today, because this guest is an absolute sage. He's a badass. I can't wait to introduce you to him. Who is he, Casey? Who is he? Marketing leader, thought leader, brand strategist, writer, photographer, advisor. But get this, he is a seasoned, salty CMO, a 6 times CMO. And probably as I even say that, it's probably outdated. Multi-time CMO, leading teams up to like 90 plus people, small countries worth of marketing teams, marketing budgets in the 25 million plus range. And we're going to learn from him today. 20 plus years, decades of experience, or should I say a quarter century of experience. He's also won the Marketing Executive of the Year award by the American Business Awards, consultant and advisor, fractional marketing officer for several growing companies right now. Daniel Incandela, welcome to the show, sir.
Oh my goodness, that was way over the top, Casey. But I am so pleased to be here with you today. Thanks for having me.
I can't believe you said yes. Shout out to Justin who connected us, man. I'm excited to learn from you today, so I'm going to shut up, but I got to pass you this thing. It's really heavy, but obviously you work out. Ugh. Okay, you go, Daniel.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep. All right. Take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
All right, I think a lot of people will relate to this, but I'm smashing the myth in B2B that branding doesn't matter. Full stop.
Smash.
Spoiler, it matters more than ever today. And here's what's happening. We're in this era of post-COVID profitable growth. The actions are misaligned with the reality. Here's why I'm saying that. You ask anyone in a company, does brand matter? Of course they're going to say yes. Everyone, CEO, exec team, board members. But think about how we are resourcing marketing teams right now. It is so overly skewed towards the pipeline, demand gen, conversion rates, pipeline models, pipeline funnels, close rates, blah, 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 that we are creating this sterile version of ourselves that people see through. We are selling to human beings. And let me tell you, human beings remember stories, not your spreadsheets. Done.
So true. Boom, smash. The thing to smithereens. Man, not only is it important, but we are just ignoring the hell out of it, huh? I just bumped into someone the other day and we were chatting about a podcast, and they were fixated on every single dollar of marketing had to immediately tie into a SQL or it wasn't going to be spent. And this sounds like exactly the myth you're trying to smash. It's almost like you're trying to shake them by the shoulders and say, stop, you're walking off a cliff. Why do so many people think this way?
Well, I think in some ways it's a positive. I think if we rewind pre-COVID, marketers in general had a reputation of being a little too fluffy and not as focused on metrics unless you worked in marketing ops or demand gen. So I think it's been a good growth process for CMOs to become more business minded. It had to happen. But the pendulum has swung way, way, way over to the point that with every company now focused on profitable growth and marketing being a big cost center, that they're overly focused on driving that pipeline. And I understand that it's a business, it has to survive. I'm not saying that's bad, but what I really want to emphasize is that I think there is magic when you blend a great brand strategy with a smart demand gen strategy. You're going to see better results. And so if we can stop and calm down for a second, catch our breath, and realize, wait a minute, marketing is so much more than a LinkedIn ad.
Yep.
Or a dollar equating to X amount of ROI. Marketing can connect with human beings. It can help open doors for sales. It can increase customer retention. There's a bigger picture that's being missed. And for me, it starts with how are we defining the brand? How are we creating a brand that people can connect to? And what are the stories we're telling? Like I said, people remember the stories. They will not remember your display ad or your paid social ad or your BDR reaching out to the same prospect 20 times. Like, let's tell some stories here.
That's brand too, but in a negative way. Leave me the hell alone, right? I swear I unsubscribed from you 3 times. Why do you keep emailing me? That's not the brand we want to connect with. But tell me, I feel like so many of us, we've spent a lot of cycles maybe on the logo. Okay, so maybe we swing the door the other way. We're like, okay, we can't be so obsessed with, MQL, SQL. We also have to add back in some of this, but we just fixate on, okay, is the logo sexy, and, great, but it almost like that's the extent of what we're thinking about for brand. And there's not really any story. If I think about it, there's no story inherent in just the picture.
Yeah. One of my, a line that a lot of people have heard me say is that, in my opinion, great marketing is great storytelling. And if you can get the hook, you're going to get the customer. And if we think about the B2B process today, and again, I am not trying to hate on the CEOs of boards that are trying to drive profitability. I get it. We're in business. This is capitalism. But for marketers listening, if we think about it, it starts with you have a defined ICP. Okay. You dive in, you find the ideal companies that fit with that you're going to target. Okay. Smart marketing. Then within those companies, you're going to identify the persona or the job titles that you need to reach to. Okay. At no point have we thought about this as a human being.
Yeah, true.
But ultimately, like Casey, if I'm trying to sell to you, I need to get to know you. I need to figure out how I'm going to connect to you. It's human psychology. It's human connection. It is the story that I am telling to you. And you started off this with the train analogy. So clearly you're a train nut. I'm going to think about like train sets that I can send to you to get your attention.
Yeah.
The history of trains in 18th century England. I'm sending you that book, man.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Maybe a little conductor hat too. One of those little like,
And a whistle.
And a whistle.
Like the whole kit. You'll be set for your interests and for Halloween. My point is, how am I going to connect with you? And if we do that, you're building brand awareness and brand sentiment. And you know what? You're opening the door for sales to go in and have a really strong conversation. We're kind of missing that. Like all of that's getting scrapped so that, we can focus on cost per lead and things like that. And that's important. But I'm telling you, you think about the brand, the story that you're telling, and just invest in that a little bit. And then couple it with a smart demand generation play, you're going to see magic. You're going to see the results.
Quick question. How do you connect the story you're trying to tell with a brand to like a gift? Because sometimes the gift I like to make fun of is, you send your alma mater, your alumni socks, right, to someone. Hey, you went to this school. I saw it on LinkedIn. Here's some socks. And by the way, I do love a good business sock brand one, but at the same time, I'm not totally a fan of my college and my university. It's a weird name, so don't send me socks, right? But like, I feel like sometimes people just jump to that as a gift. But how do you? What's the? Is there something in between there between like the brand story and this like here's a gift?
Yeah, I think it's going the extra mile in the thought process. And so there are certain companies where they invest in really great brand swag. So no matter what you're sending out, it's providing value, it's high quality, it is thoughtful. On the flip side, you've got people on the front lines, whether it's sales or sales development, doing the research on the actual human beings. It's a slippery slope, right? It can get creepy really fast. So like for me, there's three tiers. There's the top one where, for UKC, I know you have association with podcasts. I'm going to get you a gift related to that. Anyone could
Yep.
deduce that. Maybe I go layer deep where it's just easily accessible information about you. Maybe you've posted about LinkedIn, but let's say you are a huge train collector. Okay. I'm going to get you something related to trains. That is thoughtful. Then I think you go a step too far where it's like overly researched into your personal life and like, like they're getting your 3-year-old a gift. Well, like that's not too far.
And they're calling you by name, and you're like, oh man, that's kind of weird.
So, I think you use that approach of being thoughtful and sincere and intentional. And you're operating as a brand. Everyone at a company is a brand ambassador. And so it's our job to integrate the company values
Yeah.
or the values of the product or the values that we provide to our customers and show that in real life.
So the gift giving is a representation of that your brand, like so that brand may be a giving, caring kind of like we care about you. Is that the idea? Because I don't. Maybe not all brands are gift giving, or is it like what? I'm still missing that connection. Like, where do you? How do you? Maybe we should take a step back to like the brand story, and then how that eventually equates to the actions you
Yep.
take.
Maybe it doesn't make sense for every brand to do gift giving, especially if you're targeting industries that have very strong rules against that. Obviously, you're not going to do that. I was CMO at ReachDesk, which is a gifting platform. I'm a big believer in it. It's a human cultural act that has been occurring for centuries. I think it's a really important thing that we should do. And I
Yeah.
think in terms of marketing, especially when coupled with account-based marketing, it's a process that works. So you can also view it as, is it generating ROI? Absolutely. I think gift giving is also a way of establishing a relationship, but it's based on the company's decision whether that is their act. I think it's a gesture of goodwill. I think a lot of brands could use that, especially in B2B when we're trying to humanize them a little bit.
Mm. What are the bad plays there? Like, what are the screw ups in the gift world? Have you seen people do it wrong,
I think,
or is it kind of like if you give something, it's just you're good. You're good. I mean, I complained about socks, but
you know, a really poor quality gift with tons of packaging and waste and all of that, I don't think is the right approach. I think if you're doing research and trying to be thoughtful, and like in my case, I don't drink, and the number of times I've been sent alcohol, like I appreciate the gesture, but it's not going to hit with me.
what do you do with it, by the way? Because you could forward it to me if you want.
Don't worry, my wife takes it,
Okay, okay.
but I will keep that in mind. If suddenly after this podcast I get cases of whiskey sent to me, I'll
Well, I'll take one for the team.
Uh, and certainly, like I mentioned, people in highly regulated industries, especially around gifting, you're putting them in a really tough spot. I think don't send crap today. Be thoughtful. Like, I don't need another company pen. I don't. Do you?
Yeah. The, I have some pens that I like. So if you send me a pen, I don't really need it. I have this Pilot G207. I like
That
this.
is a good pen. That's the one I use, man.
Really?
Watch this. If it's not in here, it's going to be an epic. Ready?
Yep. Hey, there we
Yes.
go. So, I mean, in the story of even you have the same pen, right? Like there's story, there's human connection. How can a brand go beyond the logo and tell a story? Like it's an entity. How does an entity tell a story?
That's a great question. It feels overwhelming, but for me, it is the company's story. Why does this company exist? Who do they serve? What is their purpose? What are the core values? What does the product do? That to me informs all of it. Um, but what I have done at multiple companies is led a messaging house framework. And it is exactly how it sounds. It looks like a house. So it's the roof, which is sort of the thesis statement for what the company does, what it stands for. The pillars that hold the roof are the supporting facts and data for that statement. And then the foundation is everything from core values to the actual data behind what we're saying and what customers are saying, the awards, things like that. What I like to do is get everything I said previously. What does the company stand for? What are the core values? What's the content we're currently producing? A lot of interviews. So internal stakeholder interviews across the company, interviews with board members to get their perspective and investors, interviews with key partners of the company. And I think most important is interviews with prospects coming in to get their take, and then interviews with existing customers. And so what you're doing is gathering data. And again, for me, marketing is this beautiful blend of art and science. And when we're talking about brand, it immediately feels like art, but there needs to be science driving that. And when you do these interviews and you start pulling all of this together, natural themes occur that allow you to point in the right direction of building this messaging house. And then when you go to storytelling, new pieces of content, thought leadership, what an exec is going to say at a keynote, you have this framework, this messaging house framework that guides it all. So it ensures the entire company is on point when it comes to messaging, which is quite important. It ensures that the message going outside of the company, whether through marketing or interviews, media, and stuff like that, is consistent and allows everyone to tell the same story. And I found that's really useful in organizing the type of story to tell. And then you can apply the brand and the creativity on top of that.
Man, I feel like you need a book on this. I feel like this is a book. The messaging house. You know, I love that you're starting by gathering the data and well, not starting, but you're gathering the data, having these important interviews. When you're talking to the stakeholders, the board, the partners, the prospects, the customers, what kind of things are you asking?
There's, I think, two very important things to remember with this approach. One is data should inform everything. And, I have a former colleague named Megan Isherwood who's a great marketing ops person. And she always says, data has no feelings, right? And I love that because marketers can have feelings. We evoke feelings, but data should be informing what we're doing, whether that's brand or on the other side.
Yeah.
The other thing you're doing is establishing credibility. And that's a lot of what we do as marketers, certainly as marketing leaders, is we're educating others on what marketing really does. And we're establishing credibility so we're not viewed as this cost center that has their head in the clouds. And this process is doing both. You're following a detailed process focused on data and bringing others along for the journey. It's really important because when you get to the end of it, you're still presenting something that could be interpreted as highly subjective. And marketing is simply words, colors, and shapes. And everyone has an opinion on this. And so you establish that credibility so when you get to the end of it and you're advocating for what you believe is the right thing for the company, you have the data and a process that has been followed and you've brought everyone along for the ride. It's really important. And so that's why I like that so much. I tend to focus on questions that are consistent and uniform across all of the stakeholders so that you have the tightest control of the data. But you're also looking for their perspective on what you think might be reality, and often it's different. So I tend to come up with 10 to 15 questions that I vet with others across the company just to make sure that everyone feels like we're asking the most important questions, and then stick to it. And then you're gathering data. You're recording these interviews so you can get the transcripts. You're reviewing the transcripts. And these days, you're also using AI to help interpret those transcripts quickly. And the themes are emerging. And typically, what I have found is those themes are undeniable.
Undeniable themes. Do you have any favorite questions or questions that stand out that you typically will use every time in these kind of products? I understand some customize and some change.
Yeah, it's the easiest questions that stump even the most seasoned exec, CEO, or board member. Like, you think anyone could answer this. It's, what does this company do? And typically you ask, you ask 5 execs from the same company that question, you're gonna get 5 different answers, which is why you need a messaging strategy. The other one is like, can you explain what this company does to someone's grandmother? Right. You're getting them out of that awful B2B SaaS talk of being laser focused and put a pin in it and let's circle back. Right. You're just getting them to use
Yeah.
real language. And that typically is very revealing.
Love the grandmother aspect of that. I remember being in a car with my grandmother, and my brother and I were both in there, and she looks at him, "Hey, what do you do?" You know, he says, "I'm a police officer." She goes, "Ooh," understands it completely. She looks at me, digital marketing at the time. "Hey, what do you do?" And I'm like, we advertising on the computer, or like trying to explain, but yeah, it's and there's no buzzwords. I'm not telling Bushi, shout out to Bushi. I'm not telling her B2B marketing for, blah, 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 all the different, the ABM, GTM, all those things, right? It's like, how do I boil this down? And it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not.
I can see you really stumping some people on there, but even their hesitation is a signal that there's some unclear messaging, right? They all pause and they're not really sure if they all have to come up with it on the spot. Then clearly we're not on the same page. And we can at least get the execs on the same page, if not everyone else.
Yeah, we're here to guide. Right. Like,
Yeah.
if they are stumped, you're right. It's an indication.
Yeah.
We're doing the right thing. We're to help, and that's what great marketing does this so well. It
Yeah.
takes what we do is hard, and typically in tech things are complex. But great marketers distill that into a story that anyone can understand. That's what we're trying to do. That's going to open doors. That's going to close deals.
Yeah. Well, 100%. And I have to imagine that it's one thing to know what are the execs saying, but then what do the actual customers say? And, maybe that might need to inform or reinform how everyone else talks about it,
Yeah.
is using the language of our customer.
Gardner has this research. It's something like 70% of buyers have already done their research before reaching out. It's something like that. And so we don't always know what they're doing, but they are paying attention. They're looking at us. They are reading our things. They're looking at interactions. They're looking at other sites. That to me is all brand awareness and storytelling. And that's happening before anything. It's terribly difficult to measure that or put an ROI on that. But that's why it really bothers me that we've gone so far in the other direction of focus on dollars spent for this channel to produce this. well, what about all the stuff that's been happening before that that we don't even know about? And that to me is like why branding right now is so important, because that is happening. And I think right now, everyone is under an immense amount of stress in this world we're living in. Let's just treat them like humans. I think we'll be surprised.
Yeah, I feel like branding has an attribution challenge, you know?
It I agree. In every role I've been in where trying to tackle that, it ends up being this gigantic spreadsheet. Like there's a real opportunity there of how do we track the impact of brand, because it's it's all over.
Yeah.
It could be radio, it could be a billboard, it could be at an airport. It's all the digital things. It's physical event. Like, how do you combine that into something that makes sense? It's tough.
Tough, like and anecdotally, or maybe through some of these interviews, you start hearing things. It reminds me of, I think it was Deirdre Shen. She was talking about uh, how she changed up her forms from, having a data controlled drop down of how did you hear about us, even adding that field seems like heresy. You should just automatically track it from your UTM parameters, right? But she added the field, but then she actually changed it from a drop down to just like a free text box. And people would sometimes share the whole journey, right? And I have to think back to the classic, argument when somebody converts and they go, well, the first touch was they got an email after the trade show saying, thanks for stopping by the booth. It's like, well, if they got that, maybe there were some other touches that came first before that. And it's really hard to discover what those are.
Well put.
Yeah. Well, my next question really for you is, where do you get your input from? You have so much experience and knowledge. How do you stay, up to date? Are you reading books? Is it podcasts, blogs? Where do you get your input from?
That's a good question. I certainly look to a lot of B2C brands for inspiration. I think, there's a certain amount of just admiration and awe that I have for B2C because I feel like they're living in a freer world, that I think it's probably more pressure, but it's also more exciting. It's more fun. The B2C brands just seem to have, like, from the outside looking in, taking more risk and so on. But I do think the stakes are higher for them. So I love pulling in B2C approaches into our B2B world, um, if allowed, not always allowed, but like,
Yeah.
so B2C is certainly something I try to pull in. Certainly have a good network of B2B people that I talk to a lot. Justin Color being one of them who you mentioned. And I was hoping this whole show would actually be about him, but alas, maybe that's the next one.
That'll be our next question, right?
So that's really good. But the fact is, like, B2B, in my opinion, still remains fairly formulaic and boring. And so that's why I'm trying to look outside for inspiration. Outside of that, I try to get my inspiration and creativity from things that bring me joy as well. So that's why I like to do creative writing. That's why I like art a lot and photography. So I try to look at things that are just going to keep me creatively energized, because I think that allows me to come in and bring different approaches to solutions. So I don't read a ton of business books. I don't listen to a ton of business podcasts. I do occasionally, but much rather focus it on things that are more fun and exciting to me.
Yeah. It's almost like giving your brain some extra cycles to not process things. That, and there's some good business books out there. Like there's like an Alex Hormozy book, but in that, or even like Tim Ferriss, his Giant Titan book. Problem is, every 3 lines I have a to do now, so I can never get through it because I'm like, oh, I should do something with that. I should do something
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, I love the idea of drawing inspiration from things around you, and it's, I mean, what a cool way of talking about B2C brands. I think sometimes we diss them in the B2B world, like, oh, look at those guys over there. But you're right. The stakes are higher, and they do take more risks. When you mention that, I think about Oatly and their stupid CEO playing a piano in the middle of a field for a Super Bowl like 2 or 3 years ago. Hated that commercial. Can't stop talking about it.
Clearly.
Right. Never, not a customer, never going to drink it. But you know what? I free advertising on the hardcore marketing show every time this comes up because it was so embedded in my brain. But taking risks, at least, right? At least he was doing that.
Yeah. I need to look that one up.
Could I do that? Could I play terrible piano in a field and advertise podcasts? I don't know.
I mean, you should now.
I should.
Then do it.
Just YOLO, right?
Are you going to edit this? Because if you are going to edit, you should go shoot yourself playing in a field so that we can cut that.
Yeah, get a little piano and just make it happen, right? Just go. Okay, okay. Shout out to Avery. We're gonna need to edit this with. By the way, leave this conversation in, but let's intersperse a picture, a video of me playing the piano in the middle of a field. And if it doesn't play in the episode, then you all know that I chickened out. But hold me accountable.
Love it.
So, man, what's coming around the bend? What do you see from where you're at? I'd love to know what you're excited about from the future. What are some of the changes happening in the future that you're just stoked to capitalize on?
We are talking about brand, and I've mentioned the pendulum swinging, that it does that in life and politics and business all over. I mean, it seems like a natural cycle. I do think companies in our B2B space are waking up to the fact that, wait a minute, hey, we can't discard brand. It needs to be part of the bigger picture. And so that is happening. And this is not a shameless plug of me, but the work I do as a consultant is twofold. There's interim and fractional CMO leadership, and then project-based. All of the project work that I have done in the past 6 months has been related to brand strategy or messaging. And that to me is pretty telling, that even in this weird economic climate where we don't know heads from tails, that people are thinking about that, they're investing in it.
Wow, that's a good sign.
And so that's what I'm excited about. I think we're coming back to where we can be holistic marketers again and thinking about the big picture. And then the other thing, I'm not sure I'm excited or scared to death, is, AI. I hate to be that guy that's talking about AI. I don't want to be, but certainly as a consultant, the way I've adopted AI has helped me become more of a one-person agency.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful that I'm in the spot where I've had to really figure that out. I think if I was a full-time CMO and working my ass off, wouldn't have as much time to think about that. I have.
No.
And where we're headed, if we're continuing to do layoffs and rethink people's roles and all of that, then a lot of us as marketers are going to have multiple gigs. And like the blend of the creator economy in B2B tech. And in order to do that, it's your expertise, it's your brand, it's your use of AI, it's all of those things. And that's happening. And I'm neutral about it. I'm not excited. I'm a little scared of it, but it's our reality. And so I'm glad I'm figuring out rather than burying my head in the sand.
It's a great point. It's a great point that because you have your hands in the dirt, you're planting the carrots yourself, that you're able to get a real sense of that. So, should you go full time at a CMO role or stay fractional, you now are able to roll that out with actual personal experience to your teams, and not just, I think there was an article we talked about in this pod where a CEO said, "Hey everyone," it was Shopify. It was like, "Hey everyone, use AI. We're not going to train you, but definitely share what you learn." And it was like, good, all right, but how are we learning this? But I get the sense that if you're actually practically using it yourself, you're able to better inform your teams of like what direction you want to take it in.
I believe that same CEO said that they will not hire anyone unless you prove it can't be done by AI.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah, they did.
that's our reality.
Yeah.
We're in a
Yeah.
space that loves to make money. So if they can cut costs on a human being, they absolutely will.
And you see that all over the place. But it is inspiring when you mentioned that the pendulum swinging, the fact that all the projects you're doing, the majority of them you're doing are brand strategy and messaging, feels good for me too, right? Because in the podcast space, I have often mistakenly tried to I mean, we create human connection over here, but at the same time, people want to say, well, can I get an immediate SQL out of that podcast relationship? Maybe. I mean, I've had it happen every now and then, but really it's in that other realm, it's in that messaging, the
Yep.
discovery, the connection realm beforehand. And, I'm fascinated by these conversations because I need to position it in that way, not in the other way, right? I'm not in the direct pipeline way. I got to get it out there in the brand side.
Yep. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Well, dude, my next question for you really is like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know all these things? Take me back in time, little Daniel days. Did you know you're going to be a seasoned, salty marketing leader?
Uh, I knew I was going to be salty. Let's put it that way.
Right?
I had no idea. I was fortunate enough younger to travel a lot. So I knew that I wanted to explore.
Yeah.
I mean, explore like in all areas. Look, when I went to university, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in England until I was 12,
Wow.
and then moved to the US when I was 12, and I've stayed. But not knowing what I wanted to do, I chose my degree in anthropology, which is the study of human culture, and thought, look, if anything, if I can understand humans, I think life will work out. And I'm really grateful that I did that. I think I might be the only CMO with a degree in anthropology.
I bet.
But I would say what I have followed throughout my career, which has spanned art museums, motorsports, and now tech, is that I like to tell stories. And I think that's great marketing. I think that's why I've been able to do what I do. That's been the common thread. But I never thought I'd become a CMO or work in tech or do any of these things. I've just kind of followed what I'm passionate about. And I'm very happy that I'm now consulting because I'm getting back to the areas of marketing that I love, which is the brand side and the messaging side. I don't want to be in board meetings looking at spreadsheets and justifying why a certain thing didn't generate the ROI. Like I can do it, but there's probably 1,000 people better than me at doing that, and people that love it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's not your jam. Your passion is this other thing. The passion is this storytelling, this the more memorable part, honestly. They're not going to remember what the value was in column G4, row 3002. No one remembers what that row was, but they'll remember that story you told. They'll remember you getting a degree in anthropology. In any like what can you give me a nugget? What's an anthropology nugget that you maybe took away from the study of humans and cultures?
Well, I think it's certainly within our space, marketing, which we are one of the centers of an organization simply because we serve everyone. It's not just sales. We serve the entire company, whether it's internal events or recruiting or whatever that is, the website that's for everyone, you name it. And I have found certainly at the exec level and certainly in board meetings, your success is also based on your ability to build relationships and build support for what's important to you. I'm also an introvert. So combine that with an anthropologist, which is there to observe and study. It's helped me understand, I guess, the politics of internal business cultures and how to best
Yeah.
approach them. And that has
Wow.
really helped me. And I think if there are CMOs listening here, they'll relate to the fact like you've got to build the right alliances internally to get things to move fast and to get what you think is the best solution for a company. So that's been totally invaluable. I think the other thing is that from the beginning of my career where I had some ethically horrible bosses, okay, that
Yeah.
I'm now grateful for because I learned so much from them, is that I want to approach everything I do with kindness and honesty. And I think that has helped me. Anthropology has helped me do that really well. And it's translated into mentorship. So that's another, when you ask me, who am I? Like, I'm also a mentor. I'm really proud of
Yeah.
the work I've done with others to invest in them. But they've also probably taught me a lot more, which says a lot about them.
Yeah. The anthropology side of things. So it brings you to where you're at now, and so you're helping. Are you helping build these messaging houses? Like, what kind of work are you doing for your fractional clients?
Well, so for, I would say the fractional and interim work I do as a CMO, I'm dropping into a company and helping running marketing. So it's everything from um, building out pipeline dashboards and demand gen approaches to customer marketing to event strategy. It's everything. So it's like I'm a marketer, but then the project work is very much related to developing brand strategies for companies, which is a pivot or potentially a rebrand or a company rename. And then companies coming to me saying, I need help with messaging. What is the storytelling? And yes, I've done several of these messaging house frameworks this year already that I mentioned. Um, I think it's a good sign. I think people are waking up to like, hey, we really got to connect with people, and likely our competitors are doing it better.
Hmm. Wake up call to make sure you're telling a story to a
Yep.
human. Uh, my next question for you, really kind of like a final question. It's a bit of a hypothetical question if you're ready for this.
Probably not, but let's do it.
You see, I may or may not have a time machine over here in New Hampshire. So the next time you're in Boston for an event or, conference or whatnot, you come up, drive north, visit. It's in the backyard covered in a tarp,
Okay.
right? So you get to use this time machine. You get to go back in time and you get to meet yourself 4 days after getting that anthropology degree. What do you tell yourself?
Probably to get a haircut because it was long and like
Was
so
it
big,
long?
very big. Um, Gosh, that's a really great question. I think it would be something like enjoy the ride. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
look back now. I'm like just so proud and grateful for the career and the experiences I've had. Um, just grateful. But when you get a degree and you're starting as an adult, you have no idea. And so like, um, it's been okay and it's going to be okay. Enjoy the ride.
And it sounds like you wouldn't tell yourself to avoid that bad boss or the other guy, like, because it helped shape your leadership now.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Um, I can look back on mistakes I've made and I'm like, I wish I hadn't done that. But I will say, like, I've tried to turn every experience into a learning moment, and bad bosses
Yeah.
helped shape me into, I think, being a good boss. So why would
Yeah.
I not have wanted to do that? Um, I have been fired once in my career, and I am grateful that that happened. And I'm grateful that the CEO did that. Because it
Yeah.
put me on a whole nother path of other things that probably wouldn't have happened. So try to remain positive and use everything as a learning experience. And so, gosh, other than the haircut, like, it's been all right.
And do you think you would listen to you if you got that advice
No,
from the future?
no, because I was like a cocky, like cocky idiot. No, of course not. The
Oh
hair looked
man.
cool, man.
Right? Come on, man. These are my locks.
And I'm not going to enjoy the ride. I'm going to worry about it obsessively and
I'm gonna stress the whole time.
stress and like I'm going to chase titles that mean nothing and uh,
Yeah.
work too much and sacrifice personal life because I know what I'm doing.
Right. Right. Man, well, hey man, where can people, if they want to connect with you, they want to give you a shout out, or they just want to, reach out, what's the best way to do that?
Well, my SEO game is on point.
Hell yeah.
So danielincandela.com. I'm also, I think, the only Daniel Incandela in the world. So that's easy. It's got everything. Please add me on LinkedIn. That also has all of my contact information.
Oh, there it is. The SEO on point. And there it is. I should have teased you and said, "Oh, who's this other guy?" You'd be like, "What?" No, man, that's okay. So that's great. We'll link to that for those
Thank
listening.
you.
Put it in the show notes. You can get right through. Man, that's a great photo on your website. That's pretty
Thank you.
badass. You got that $1 million blazer going on. Let's go.
That's right. Hey, branding, man.
Yeah. Wow. So all right. Well, dude, I don't, it's been like a time warp we've been in, right? In a time machine of our own. Man, thank you so much for coming on here. I feel like I've learned a ton. The messaging house, the conversations with the internal stakeholders, the idea of the gifting and telling the story, and great marketing is great storytelling. I mean, this was been such a great conversation.
Casey, thanks for having me. I'm a quiet, introverted, monotone man child over here. And I feel like you got a little energy and life out of me, which is hard to do. So I really appreciate you having me on. This has been a fun conversation. Hopefully it's helpful to anyone listening, or if not, at least it's entertaining.
I forgot, I left off the quiet, introverted man child in your introduction. We'll have to add that in.
I could dub it over. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Post. We'll add it in post. Man, for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, literally ran out of space, right in the margins. There's the house, drew the house. Then share this with one person. 3 people, 9,000 people is cool too. But you know what? Even one person, that's thought leadership. Who needs to hear this? Who's not telling a story? Who's not minding their brand? Do you have a marketer on your team? Do you have a friend who's doing this? Friends don't let friends ignore brand. Let's do this. So share this episode with them. Tag Daniel, tag myself. We'll hop in there. We'll go to battle in the comments. We'll make these things happen. So again, Daniel, thank you so much for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.